All right, guys. It's another Thursday night, rainy Thursday night, at least over here. I am Mutant XP, and welcome to episode 9 of the Mutant XPerience Third Strike podcast. With me tonight is none other than the king of Third Strike, Yaz from Paris, France. How you doing, Yaz? Doing all right?
Hey, me tonight.
Oh, great, great. So we're just having some technical difficulties here. Obviously, we're trying to connect across an ocean, but I think I
Oh,
hear. I think we hear you now. Say
you,
something
you
again,
can hear me.
Yaz. Yeah, okay.
Hi,
Okay,
guys.
we can. All right. So once again, guys, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, the Mutant Experience podcast is a show that gives Stir Strike players around the world a platform to promote themselves, their scenes, and their events. And so tonight, obviously, we have one of the stronger French players, Third Strike players in the world, Yaz, here to talk a little bit about his experience playing Third Strike, coming up in the scene, talk a little bit about the scene over in France. Obviously, for those of you who do follow Third Strike, you know Yaz has been playing a lot in Japan. He's been living there for quite some time, and you may have seen him in some of the game Newton streams, wrecking stuff up. And so we'll definitely talk about his experience in Japan. And then last but not least, we're going to be talking about one of the biggest events to come out recently for Third Strike in Europe,
Yep.
and that's HFS3. For like 3 months, I've been calling it HSF, but it's HFS3, the Hadu tournament, which Yaz will be in attendance. There's going to be a lot of Third Strike players actually there,
Yep.
and so Yaz, let's go ahead and start a little bit at the beginning. So how'd you get into Third Strike?
Wow. So I knew that you would ask that, so I had to go back in my memory and try to find when was the first time that that I actually started this game. And I remembered actually. So just to give you a quick background, I grew up in the Caribbean in Martinique, French West Indies. So, and there's a big arcade arcade scene. Lots of players actually are from the Caribbean in France and in Paris. Lots of KOF players. So we have this community, and so basically it was last year of junior high school. It was in 2000.
Hmm.
So what happened that very day? We didn't have game centers per se. We had cabinets scattered all around town, like here and there, and we would just, some places had a KOF, some other place would have a Last Blade, some other one would have a Metal Slug. So we would
Hmm.
just hop between shops. It was, I don't know, a bakery or bar or whatever. So we would hop like that and play different games. But this one was actually a game center. But the
Hmm.
thing is, it was forbidden if you weren't 18. Of
Hmm.
course, high school, we weren't like near 18, anywhere near 18. But on that day, I don't know why the owner let us in, and we just go in and explore these amazing places with lots of cabinets and stuff. And but here it is, like just brand new cabinet with Street Fighter Third Strike. He tells us that it's the latest game he just like had in, and we just put a coin and start discovering the game. And so yeah, it was in 2000 that I first touched Third Strike. The first character that I ever took was actually 12. It's it's the best character ever. I mean, look at this character. He's I'm gonna do that. I mean, he's that. He's the only character that dances. Like, what stance is that? He's just badass. So I started playing 12, but obviously that didn't last long. It was the only place in Martinique actually that had Third Strike, so I didn't get to play this game a lot. And basically throughout my career, I was a KOF player at first because that was the game that was most played yeah in Martinique. So I played KOF until KOF 11. When I moved out from Martinique to Paris in 2004, I entered the let's say pro gaming scene with KOF 11. That's where people started knowing, yeah, about me. I won. I mean, gained momentum, and I became very very strong at this game. Um, and then when it, I mean, people went on to 98 UM, 2002 UM. So not many players were left playing KOF 11. So I had to choose another game, and that's when I went back to one of my first loves, actually. That was Third Strike, and so that was in 2010. I would say that I started again the game seriously. I joined the community in Paris. That was the time where we had this game center called um, Shoe. What was it called? Well, I forgot, but it was our only game center. We had lots of games over there. Um, it was one of the biggest times for Third Strike at the time. Yeah, and since then, well, I've kept playing the game more and more, and here I am today.
So you actually played the game when it first came out, and then, but it wasn't something that you were, that there was a sort of tournament scene for you to
No,
participate in. So
definitely
you
not.
really cut your, so you really cut your teeth on KOF games.
Yep, yep. That's where I first learned how to, yeah, play fighting games, and that's where I came from.
Hmm. Now, before we talk a little bit about the French scene in particular,
Mhm.
can you talk to me a little bit about that transition from competitive KOF to competitive Third Strike? Um, how different do you feel the games are? How was that transition for you? Was it a difficult one, or was it sort of easy for you?
No, it was definitely a difficult one because KOF is a very aggressive game,
Mm-hmm.
especially 11, where you had all these tags, and it was very new. So I had to adapt definitely. Of course, coming from a high level in KOF, it helped me, of course, not starting from the bottom. In Third Strike, I
Mm-hmm.
had the basics of a fighting game. I knew what zoning and all these technical stuff were, but I had to
Mm-hmm.
adapt my kind of style and my game to to Third Strike, and that was very hard. I see some very good footage down there of a great game. People, you should play KOS 11. So no, I would say I had, yeah, this luggage, carrying this luggage with me, and then I had to learn again how the game functioned, like all the mechanics of Third Strike. It was not easy at first, but
Mm-hmm.
once you get in there, it actually is a very good thing coming from another game and having and knowing and having all this knowledge. I would say um, to put it in this in Third Strike, because some people sometimes don't realize um, something like how to use a certain um, like I don't know, a certain technique in Third Strike, and they won't use it. But you're coming from another game, and you're like, okay, maybe I can use this in that way, and that might work. And it actually, I came out with like some stuff that no one really used before, and they were like, I don't know why, but maybe it's too unsafe, or no, you shouldn't do that, because like sometimes you really have this kind of playing that, no, I have to play this way and it's the only way I have to play this game. But maybe it brought some originality into my game, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And can you give like a specific example of what you're talking about?
I think I was I haven't seen I couldn't say I'm the one that invented this, but the so I'm sorry because I don't really use the American names
No,
of
that's fine.
the American terms of each button,
Mm-hmm.
so I always forget, like a hard punch. So when you do like low hard punch with Chun, like this huge
Mm-hmm.
uh jab she has. This covers like such a huge amount of the screen and basically covers everything that is low. And
Mhm.
I didn't see lots of people using this, especially with super. When you have super and you just like spam, well, you shouldn't spam it, of course, but you just use it at certain like yeah times and against certain characters. But you just use this lower hard punch and just input your super in it, and if it hits, the super connects. If it
Mhm.
doesn't, nothing comes out. But it kills. For example, you play an acro, it kills like all your lows. So
Mhm.
that's kind of a um, very good technique. Against Urian, it's very good as well because any MK or HK it will punish. And against other characters like Makoto or yeah, it will stop them like from dashing. Sometimes it's not perfect because like some characters like Makoto, if she dashes but still sometimes she can guard, the super will come out if it hits.
Mhm.
So it's not perfect, but it's still a very good thing. And I hadn't seen anyone use this before, and I was like, well, I mean, yeah, it's a good thing. So exploring, you know, the game and how to use it, or just another example that I have, and that is maybe more clear about the connection between KOF and Third Strike, especially with Makoto. So to you all Makoto players, go play Clark in KOF because I think Makoto is a Clark on steroids. Like she's so fast, but
Uh-huh.
um, her grab is probably the most powerful grab in history, I will say. But if you start playing Clark in KOF, you you know when to grab people. You know how to make people fear you and fear the grab because he doesn't like he all it's only about zoning and getting close enough to grab. But if
Mhm.
people jump, you can just hit them. And it's the same with Makoto. But I think people underestimate this grab power, and very few players play on the fear of the grab. You can see Tominaga playing on it because his um style revolves on wow, that's me a long time ago.
Yeah.
Revolves on grabbing you and then
Uh-huh.
SA2 like Tosanami. And you fear that you because she's so fast and the guard lock in that game does not exist almost. Like
Mhm.
she can LP and straight up grab you. So that's very powerful. Um, so when you play Clark, when you know how to oppress someone until they just crack and let
Mhm.
themselves like grab, it's over.
Mhm.
And just go there, play this character, come back to Third Strike, and see how powerful Makoto's grab is, and how you're gonna make people fear you and fear the grab.
That's super interesting because, we always hear a lot of people talking about how, going from one game to another sort of messes up, your mentality, but you're sort of suggesting the opposite that,
Definitely.
there's certain things about KOF that really lent itself to Third Strike. I know you mentioned that KOF is a very aggressive game.
Mm, it is.
Basically, once you stop moving forward, that means that you're probably losing in
Yeah,
KOF. But
definitely.
it's a smart pressure, right?
Hmm.
As to be a top KOF player, you have to be able to apply pressure, intelligently.
Hmm.
You have to be able to know, you have to know all of the buttons. You have to know how to use all of the buttons
Uh,
as you're pressuring someone. So that's really interesting, that you talk about how you came into Third Strike,
mm.
and you didn't seem like you had sort of any preconceived notions on how to use Chun. You just kind of said, you know what, let's see what all her buttons do. Maybe we'll find a use for all of them. And I definitely agree with the whole Makoto point. I think, personally for me, you know, if I'm not scared of your Makoto,
Oh yeah,
then there's no point for you to play her. I think I think Makoto,
definitely.
you have to be scary, and
Mm,
so, and it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter, how technically sound you are. It
mm,
doesn't matter, how well your spacing is or anything. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously that stuff matters, but the strength of Makoto is the fear of the command grab, and
Definitely, definitely.
if you don't establish that, then there's no reason to use her. Use Ken,
Definitely,
right? You
that's the point.
use another character, but it's really you're right. Because I've actually been messing around with Makoto just casually,
Mhm.
because when I went to Japan, almost everybody uses her, and we'll talk more about Japan later in the
Yeah.
show. But everybody uses her, and it's like, dude, command grab's so good, you know.
Tell me
And
about
and
it.
and and if your opponent guard jumps out of it the first time, who gives a shit?
Here you go. Grab him a second time.
Who gives a shit? You have all that life to work with. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, but that's just. I'm glad we're on the same page when it comes to Makoto. So 3J had a question in the chat.
Yeah.
It's kind of relevant to this topic here. So you go from KOF to Third Strike.
Mhm.
Why Chun? Because
So I
I think you're the first Chun player I've interviewed, and
oh.
you know, and so obviously I use a bit of a lower tier character. So I just kind
Well,
of wanted to get your sense as to why you pick up Chun.
okay. So just in between this period where I was playing KOF and started back Third Strike, I got a Dreamcast,
Hmm.
downloaded lots of games, and I downloaded Third Strike, even if it's not the best version of the game. But then
Hmm.
at the time I was watching Kokujin a lot, so I
Hmm.
started playing Dudley, and I really liked the character actually. And I played both. I played Dudley and Chun. Looked at Japanese players. I was looking at how the characters were, and I really liked both. But when I decided to go full Third Strike, I have to say that I've kind of always played top tiers. In
Hmm.
KOF 11, you can see my team. It's like two of the top tiers of the game, and so Gato and Kula. And then there is Malin that is mid, top mid. Yeah, so she's a very strong character. And I mean, I wanted to get involved in the game. I didn't want to have, you know how it is. I mean, if you take a weak character, it's gonna be harder for you to get to that point where you you're gonna be able to express yourself because you have lots to do. So I had to pick a character, a top tier character. I mean, I won't deny it. And so I looked at all the characters, and in KOF, I played two styles. Very only zoning,
Hmm.
and I tried to keep you like where you were and push you back, and I was very good at that and very aggressive. I chose this zoning part in Third Strike, and Chun Li was the best character for me, definitely. Um, People are like, yeah, but Chun Li is boring, you don't do anything, blah, blah, blah. But actually, when you're a zoning player, like I like to do, she's perfect. Like her whole game plan is what I love about fighting games. Of course, sometimes I'm a bit frustrated, but she would be god tier if she was able to attack you just like Yun, like we see
Hmm.
down there. That wouldn't be fair. But of course, sometimes that aggressive part of me, that KOF player, French KOF player, is kind of frustrated because I cannot attack and just like go
Hmm.
boom, boom, boom. But at the same time, I really love her game plan, being able, to just by this spacing and keeping my distances and just judging like, am I far enough? Am I close enough? And just planning on there, building my meter, and this whole game plan, I love it. So this is why I chose Chun Li.
Hmm. And but Chun's not the only character that can play that way,
It's
right?
true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Like that's kind of the way what you describe your playstyle is kind of the way I play Necro.
And
I
Necro is,
mean,
I think they're both very close to each other.
yeah, I
Of
think so
course,
too.
Chun is more powerful, but
Yeah.
Necro with meter is is incredibly strong, and you get actually with Necro the attack part that I don't really get with Chun Li. You get to press people, and
Hmm.
that's really good for him because of course if they didn't have that, that would be too hard.
Hmm. So when you tried to when you started to get into the third strike scene, and you said this was obviously 2009, 2010,
Yeah,
there were already some really good established French players by
yeah,
the time you came in. You know, guys like Billy Kane, Mimosa, just to name
yeah.
a few. How did they welcome you into the scene? I mean, what was your how tell me about how they kind of accepted you as this KOF player.
Um,
Like
so
were they like, yeah, come on, Yas, let's
well,
let's play,
actually,
or did they
so
make you kind of work for it a little bit?
no. So we had this forum called Console League,
Hmm.
and I've been on this forum for years. So pretty much everyone knew me
Okay.
before coming into the scene as a third strike player. And even if I didn't play, we still had like Stunfest or these big tournaments like
Hmm.
GNUs. Also, GNUs was a very big ranking battles in Paris. So we met each other, we knew each other, and so I wasn't new to the scene per se. People knew me, they knew where I came from, and they actually welcomed me. Like it was great. It was great because they made it very easy for me to join the community, to be able to play with everyone, to get the knowledge. That is very important. Um,
Hmm.
Knowledge was not kept secret. Like they taught me. I remember clearly Billy Kane or Marco at the time, his brother Nicola, like giving me all the information. There's also KX Anis that I need to thank because he was also very helping at the time with Chun Li. So they gave me all the information that taught me how the game worked, and that helped me a lot to progress very very fast.
Hmm. Oh, okay. So that really helped because you had already sort of established a certain credibility or reputation in the KOF scene. So
Hmm.
even though you were unfamiliar with Third Strike, you were familiar with competitive play, tournament play, and I think that's okay. I thought
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the camera froze a little bit, but so in terms of obviously you were a top KOF player, and you were probably in countless finals and grand finals and things like that. How does the pressure playing in a KOF tournament game differ from the pressure of playing in a third strike tournament game, or is it different, or is it the same?
I think. Can you hear me?
Again, guys, just give us a second. Yaz
Can you
isn't.
hear me?
In... Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, camera froze a little bit, but I'm sure it'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, my image is frozen. You can hear me. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Uh, so um, I think KOF has more pressure to me um, because KOF 11, like um, just one tag or two tags in KOF 11 and you're dead.
Hmm.
Um, Third strike is gonna take a little more for you to die.
Hmm.
But yeah, and it's so fast. I mean, it's faster than Third Strike. Third Strike is
Hmm.
fast, but KOF is faster. So go wise, you really need to be on point. Uh, you have to make those choices very very fast. And you have to guard like right, is it up, is it down, is it behind me? And sometimes you cannot see it, so it's very hard. And so I think there's more pressure, and maybe it's a good thing because from there, it helped deal with the pressure with Third Strike.
Hmm. Well, that's interesting. That's good. So I think this is a good time to sort of take a break, and that way we could address some of the connection issues. But when we
Mhm.
come back, Yaz, I want to talk a little bit more about the French scene and
Okay.
get some of your thoughts on the state of the French scene, and then obviously I want to talk a lot about your time in Japan, because you really
Okay.
made a name for yourself, playing in Japan. And so we're gonna take about a 2 to 3 minute break, and then when we come back, we'll have more with Yaz. And so stick around, guys. All right, guys. Welcome back to the Mutant Experience podcast number 9. I am here with the King of Dirt Strike from Paris, France, Yaz. And so, Yaz, let's kind of pick up where we left off before we took a break, and let's talk a little bit about the French scene. And so, as you had said before the break, you kind of got into the third strike scene a little bit late, 2010, and even though you were firmly entrenched in the French FGC as a KOF player, and so um, what was that like? Just going into the scene and having so many strong players? Because you know, I think I've told this story before in other streams, but I had the good fortune of visiting Arcade Street. Unfortunately, before it closed earlier last year, late last year, um, and I think I went there January 2016. Um, and one of the things that I noticed right away, about the players, and I don't know if this was like normal, like that night, or it was just that night because you knew that an outsider was coming. Maybe it's because it costs 500 euro to play one game, or 50 euro, or I don't know I forgot the euro conversion, which is basically 50 cents a game, right? Which is like yeah, which is unheard of, right? For like the longest time. But well, that's pretty expensive actually in America. But yeah, it's usually a quarter. 50 cents back in the day were like new games, right? So one of the things I noticed right away when I went to Arcade Street is that you guys really take every game very, very seriously. Obviously, more so than some players, more so than others, right? Um, but you guys definitely, you know, I always feel like the best third strike players are the ones that make you work. It sounds simple, but I think the more you make your opponent work, the better position you are. And so and maybe that's just because of me coming up as a necro player. Because if you touch me twice, I'm dead. So obviously I have to play the game like I'm playing Galaga, right? Like I can't get like I'm going in and out, and like I'm playing R type or something. Uh, but I noticed that you guys really, really take it seriously. You guys play casuals, and it's interesting because I don't know how much of that was in place before you came, but have you ever played KOF in America? Because KOF in America, in and of itself, has a pretty long and rich history, particularly in SoCal. I remember in SoCal coming up in the late '90s, early 2000s, there weren't really KOF tournaments per se. The tournament scene was dominated by the Capcom games. It was almost like the KOF scene in Southern California in the '90s and the early 2000s didn't even need a tournament scene because casuals were so intense. I mean, it was just there was a lot of really high level. Obviously no one could touch South America and KOF, right? Or, but I don't know how much was that like was that already in place when you went into the third strike scene? Like describe for me, I guess, the French mentality of third strike and getting better and how you build a community and how you make each other better and train and stuff like that. hmm Actually, hold on, Yaz. Um, we're just having some trouble here. Yeah, the stream monsters can't hear you for some reason. Just just give me a second. I think it might be on my end. All right, say something again.
Can you hear me? Hey,
Okay,
hey,
they can hear you now.
check.
Okay,
Yeah?
great. So
Okay.
go ahead, Yaz.
So, yeah, this first game center, I mean, since I started, we were kind of very short on places where to play. So we had only one or two game centers, which is very good, but still, we didn't have that many places to play. And so this is why you've seen us play that hard and going that hard, every time we put a coin is because we we don't play that much, and you're there, you have to stay sit, you need to stay there and to play as much as you can, because otherwise it's going to take a long time before, because we only had like one or two cabinets. So it takes time before you get to play again. So we don't want to get up from this place, and so you have to. Every game has to be like your top level. We don't really play casual casually. We don't take casual casually. That's
Hmm.
very. I mean, I don't know if it's French. Um, Maybe it is because we'll talk about it later. But Japan as well. I mean, they play casually actually, and I remember because I lived in New York in 2010 at the yeah in 2010 actually I left Paris and I went to New York and what was the game center in Chinatown called? Um,
Chinatown Fair.
yeah, Chinatown Fair was still open, and I played there. And I mean, it was pretty casual actually. But yeah, here in France, it's rare. I mean, it'll get casual maybe if we're all tired and we'll start
Hmm.
playing different characters and stuff. But yeah, it's always serious. It has to be. This is how like maybe we get the level is getting higher very fast, or used to, because that was we have this saying of the culture of the coin. There is this culture about putting a coin in a cabinet. You don't do it lightly. Like,
Hmm.
first, you need to get there. You need to get to the point where you're able to put your coin in a cabinet, because it's only good players that play on a cabinet. I remember one of the first game centers in Paris was in Châtelet, kind of a ghetto neighborhood with like players, but very strong players at the time, and they wouldn't let you touch the joystick if you weren't good. So they were like very skeptical if they didn't know you, and you would just come up and show up like this and, hey, can I play with you? They'd be like, can you play? So if you were like, no, I can't, they'd be like, no, so it's not for you, just go play something else. So that's KOF. That's very KOF, and that's where I came from. It's rugged, and people don't joke around. But Third Strike is less like that, but there is still this will, when you sit your ass on your cabinet, it's gonna be serious. You're gonna play seriously, and you want to show people, what you got, and this is how I think we all uh got to the level that we have today, because we never took slightly. There is another thing as well. It's probably the mentality. It's very strong at KOF. We tease a lot. So if you lose, I mean, you don't want to lose. Basically, you do not want to lose, because
Hmm.
people they're gonna kill you. Just during and after is gonna laugh. People gonna laugh, gonna shout like, "Oh my God, look at what he took," and whatnot. You really don't want to lose, and I
Hmm.
think it's very French. We're not afraid of trash talking people.
Hmm.
It's less true in Third Strike, or it was less true. I don't want to take all the credit for that, but I brought a little bit that KOF spirit into the Third Strike community, because it was very gentle and very kind, and people did it like they would trash talk, but not that much. But I mean, I'm a very big trash talker. I will talk about your mother, but I don't know her, but and, and and maybe I'd like your mother, but man, I will talk about your mother, your father, your sisters, your grandmother if I have to. Of course, I'm not talking about them, but you know
Hmm.
what I mean. And I do it always in a funny way, so it's
Hmm.
never serious. But I will trash talk. If I win, I will trash talk. If I lose, I will trash talk. It's like that, and and it and that's the thing. You do not want that happening to you, so you play seriously, because you know that people are gonna start laughing at you and shit. But it's still always in a good spirit, but. Um, it depends on the time, but sometimes it gets very salty afterwards. So yeah,
Hmm.
that mentality of trash talking, and it probably helps as well, to just get more serious in what you do. Mm.
Hmm. And so, how do you balance that? Because as I said before, the first thing that I noticed right away when I stepped foot in Arcade Street
Mm,
is just how highly competitive
mm.
your group of players are.
Yeah.
Um, and again, obviously, varying degrees, right? You have some of the players in your group. I'm not gonna name them, but you can name them that are that are a little more loose, a little more a little nonchalant, right? To use a borrowed French
It's
term,
true. It's true. It's
right?
true.
But for the most part, I really did feel like your group of players were very competitive, and you were serious about getting better at the game because I felt like all of you had respect for the game.
Mm,
Um, Now, how do you balance that with encouraging new players to play? I mean, I don't know if that's something you ever thought about, because it seems as because obviously, you kind of came into the scene very early,
hmm.
very late, excuse me, and
Late.
so your
Yeah.
focus, is really more, on yourself and becoming a better player and becoming a competitor, which is completely fine. But is that something that you think about in terms of, like how do we get
Hmm.
new players to play this game and stuff?
That's something that is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's true that I really wanted to get to a competitive level very very quick.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I never neglected anyone because I remember, and I will always do. I remember how people welcomed me and how people shared their knowledge with me, and this is something that I always did with the new players, and that everyone always did with the new players. That this is, it's a true community. We share, we help new people, new players to improve. We'll go and see them, or we'll sometimes. I mean, sometimes we go naturally and see some people. Sometimes we might wait that these people do this endeavor from themselves, like come and see you and ask you how can I get
Mm-hmm.
better, and then we'll help them full out. And I've I because maybe I got I got high, not very fast, but faster than expected. Um, I took very seriously helping other players and sharing with them very seriously, very very quick as well. We had Arca Street, which wasn't really the best place to help people out because there was only one or two cabinets, and we only played once a week at best. I tried all the time pushing people, to come during week, but I mean, you can understand it's money, so it's not easy for everyone to come every day. But so it wasn't the best place because this is why actually we played so seriously. When you only play once a week with everyone, you play seriously because you
Mm-hmm.
want to, yeah, you want to improve and to see how good you're doing against other people. But we had versus Dojo, which was the other game center, smaller and with different vibes. I mean, and you could stay there the whole afternoon until night. And this is where lots of players went during weekends. So I went there and I played a lot with people, trained a lot with some players, and taught them as much as I could teach them. I don't play many characters, so it's kind of harder for me, but I could still pass on knowledge about the game system and what they should do, what they should not do against my character, against other character. Try to help them improve in that way, and this is very important to me even today, especially after Japan. We'll get to that later, but I was very impressed of how Japanese people take care of the new players, and this is something that I would really like to replicate here in France.
So before we get to your experience in Japan, um, one of your more notable accomplishments is that you won the second, and I believe it was the last King
It
of
was
Third Strike
unfortunate.
Paris tournament.
Yep.
Um, who won the first one?
Billy Kane.
Matana?
No, Billy
Billy
Kane.
Kane.
Yeah.
Billy Kane won the first one.
Billy Kane
Okay.
won against Marco, who was
Yeah.
coming back from Japan actually for a short time, and he beat him in finals.
Yeah. So shout outs to Billy Kane holding it down for us old people.
Definitely.
Um, how what's a good word to use? Um, but how important was it that you won the second King of Third Strike tournament? Because like you said, you came in 2010. You wanted to get good very quickly,
Mhm.
and then in a relatively short span of 5 years, you were basically, you won a tournament that basically said that you were the best Third Strike player in France, if not in all of Europe. I mean, how important was it for you to win that tournament?
Um, I have to say, I wasn't. It was probably my day that day.
Hmm.
But the years before, I don't. I mean, the years before we had Stunfest, and Stunfest is a
Hmm.
team battle, so it's kind
Hmm.
of a different vibe. And I was I was kind of always frustrated that I could never express myself as much as I wanted to during those battles. And we did very good the years before with a very nice team that was not top tier players team.
Hmm.
I was with Massi and Farouk, and we went top four. So that was a very unexpected result, and a very good one at the same time. But there was still this kind of frustration I had that I wasn't there yet, but I wanted to, I wanted to get on that stage, and we all wanted to, but I mean, I wanted it, and I needed to improve so that I could get to that level. And I don't know what happened that day, but I I was probably in my zone,
Hmm.
and I made it happen, and or I don't know, it happened, but it was important to me not because I wanted to be the best. I don't care about being the best because you'll never be the best. That's my motto. I mean, there's always going to be someone that's going to be better than you, and obviously, even at that time, I mean, I won, but I wasn't the best per se. I was the best at that moment that day. But if we did a I don't know a first to 10 with Billy Kane, he would probably beat me, like, But this day at that time, I I happened to be the best, and it was important to me because it represent it represented like all these years that I really dedicated to First Strike, and it showed maybe how seriously I took the game, and I still take, and how seriously I wanted to take it. So I was very happy that I did this, and it probably made me go a step further in the game, and helped me where yeah to get where I am today. Definitely.
And so, shortly after you, about a year after you won the King of Third Strike, you had moved to Japan. And
Yes.
so, I guess we'll start talking about your experience in Japan.
Hmm.
Um, Now, did you go to Japan, primarily to get better at Third Strike, or was it a mix of things, or how, what was it? Not to get too personal, but what was that?
No, no, no.
You know.
I mean, I'll be very honest. It was a mix. Actually, I wanted
Mhm.
to take a break from Paris,
Mhm.
from the life here, from work, from everything. So,
Mhm.
and I've been always very close to Japan. I studied Japanese at university. I have a degree in Japanese language and
Mhm.
civilization. So I've always been into Japan. So Japan was kind of very obvious for me to go as a country. So I wanted to take a break, travel. So my main thing going to Japan was traveling, but at the same time, of course, being there, it would be getting better at Third Strike, and that's what I did. So it was definitely a mix between getting away, traveling, enjoying life, and getting better at Third Strike.
Mhm. And so when you were there, a couple of your compatriots were already there, right?
Yep.
I guess, and I'm talking obviously about Marco and
Yeah.
Gunfight. And
Yeah.
so, you know, how much easier was it for you to kind of make that transition, knowing that you had, you know, those two guys kind of already in Japan? I don't know how close you guys were or anything, but you know.
We were close,
Mhm.
without being, besties, in Paris. Uh, but the thing is that these two players became like couch and sofa players, by the
Uh huh.
time I got in Japan. So they were basically all playing Street Fighter 5 that just
Uh
came
huh.
out. Maybe lots of you know that
couch
Marco.
couch and sofa players. Actually, everyone should watch Gunfight. I don't know if anyone's ever watched Gunfight's SF5 stream, but it's so funny. Because like
That's
he just
yeah.
goes from English to French. Like even in like mid jokes, he'll like I don't know. It's just hilarious watching him stream five. It's
And
funny.
it comes from him, like this sofa player joke. I
Yeah.
mean, but it's only a joke, but still, yeah. So they started playing this game, so they weren't really involved much in Third Strike anymore.
Mhm.
Gunfight definitely not. He was really dedicated to Street Fighter Five.
Mhm.
Marco, we kind of managed to get his ass out of his apartment and come to Newton or some game
Mhm.
centers, but very seldom.
Uh huh.
Because when I got there, actually, Victor was there. He got there maybe 2 months.
Necro player, the
Yeah,
French
Necro,
Necro player.
very very good player. He got there like maybe 1 month and a half, 2 months before me. So he was there. We had Kikuchi, who is a Makoto and Ryu player. Um, and he's been living in Japan, coming back, going back to Japan. He's married to a Japanese woman, so now I think he stays in Japan. But he was also there, so we were actually three regular players: Victor, Kikuchi, and me. Marco kind of came um, now and then Nicola, Marco's brother,
Mhm.
came for 2 months as well in between, and so he was very often playing with us. So of course I had like Marco and Gunfight before me. It was a good thing because people were, I'd say, accustomed to having foreigners with them. So it
Mhm.
was a good thing. They knew them very well. Marco and Gunfight used to be very serious players, so that kind of paved the way when you say that you're their friends. Oh, they're like, oh, okay, so cool, and it becomes easier for you, definitely. But we didn't get to hang out much, like in the game or for First Strike, because they weren't really playing it anymore, unfortunately.
And so you kind of had to kind of fend for yourself a little bit then
Yeah,
once you got to Japan. And
yeah,
so when you got to Japan and you finally got to play all these Third Strike players that you had only heard about or watched
yeah.
on the Shen's video, what were some of your initial reactions to the way they played and and how they compared to the way obviously the French played. Um,
Yeah. So it wasn't my first time in Japan, obviously. I went to Japan almost every year since 2005, and of course, at the time I was playing KOF, so
mhm,
I used to go there, play KOF for like 2, 3 months, and come back better. And it was it was the same experience that I lived in KOF that I
mhm,
lived with First Strike. So I first learned how to guard, how to use my guard. That was the first thing I learned back in Japan. Oh, so you have to do this, and oh, that's how you guard actually.
mhm,
Wow, nice. Um, it really is the first thing you learn, like how to guard and when to guard, and lots of things you need to relearn basically because you've learned in a way that is not correct, and you need to correct so many things. And so basically the way the Japanese play it, if you're good enough to at seeing where you're what you're doing is like where you're doing wrong, you'll
mhm,
get you'll get to see, they'll show you in the game your errors, and you'll be like, oh holy shit, I cannot do that. Oh holy shit, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. So you need to relearn basically everything you've learned before because you learned it wrong. You learned it in a way, um, I don't know how to say, but we have a style. Of course, we're French players. We're not Japanese, and we do not play like Japanese players. We play way more aggressively, and that does not work with Japanese players. It does not. They know how to defend themselves like way better than we do. So the way you think you could approach a player, they'll just like stop you just right away. This is not how you approach me. This is not how you do it. So you need to relearn all the matchup, all the verses. Like how do I do against this thing or that thing? This
Hmm.
is this is lesson number one. Like relearning the basics of the game. It goes pretty fast. If you're not, if you're good at that, it goes pretty fast, and you're like, okay, now I know. This is lesson number one. But then when you get there and you start understanding how you're supposed to play safer, this is a very big concern, like playing safe. Then you discover that everything you know about the game is pretty much useless in the sense that you do not apply a matchup to a character, you apply the matchup to a person.
Hmm.
That is very different. Like
Hmm.
if people think that matchup is, you just do this and that, just like in Street Fighter 2, you do this and that, and the person cannot do this and that. So you have to win or you must lose because he's applying the matchup. But it does not work like this in Third Strike because people are so different that you could play, for example, I have so many examples, but for example, you could play YSB, Hugo. You play him, and you play just after Ebara, another Hugo, his like student. They have two complete different styles of playing, and it doesn't work. Against YSB, you can apply the matchup against Hugo. Hey, here's a good friend, like just came. Um, you can apply the matchup, but against Ebara, he has such a very personal style that you cannot. You have to learn how to play against him to win. If you think that applying the matchup Chun-Li against Hugo will get you to win, this is not true, and you will lose 10 times out of 10. You have to learn how this person acts, reacts, and how he does, so you have a chance to win. So basically, you have to learn everyone, every single player. You have to download them one by one and learn how they play, and then start playing against them, knowing the matchup.
So how does that apply to say like an event like Cooperation Cup,
Wow.
when you might have to play people that you have never played before? Um, I definitely agree with you in terms of and for those of you who are watching or who don't know Third Strike very well, when Yaz says guarding, he basically means blocking in America. Um, I totally agree with you there, Yaz. Learning how to block, because I think another problem that American players have, um, I actually think the French have a lesser problem with this than American players, is when they look at a fighting game, their initial impulse is to press buttons, right? That's what makes Third Strike really counterintuitive in my mind,
Yeah,
right? It's not really, it doesn't lend itself that way.
yeah, definitely.
It's a different game. So I definitely agree with you there. Learning how to guard properly, learning how to block, and then when you add in the fact that people can parry. I mean, just think about the most, like, when you say Third Strike, right, in America, usually the first image in people's mind is what? It's the diagonal parry,
Hey, of course.
right? And so already there, right? It's you're already sort of having to work against a certain
Yeah.
populist mentality.
Mm,
That Third Strike is this amazing offensive game.
yeah.
But that's just culturally in general. I mean,
Mm,
that's what makes fighting games so popular, at least to Americans. It's not that whole how solid can you be, like you
mm,
kind of touched on earlier in the show, and that's where I kind of have similarities with you in playstyle. I mean,
mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
I, I find that rewarding, being able to defend yourself,
Yeah.
and being able to counter poke and
Mm,
stuff like that, as opposed to just kind of going in, going in, going in.
yeah. Mhm,
Um, but it's interesting because you say that you know that you have to learn the guard,
mm,
but then the next lesson is you know
mhm.
being able to read individual players. And so
Yeah.
how do you do that in co-op cup though? Like when you play a player, like isn't there something you have to fall back on? Because I know you said, oh, matchups is not like, oh, this is a good button against
Yeah.
this character, but don't you have to fall back on don't you have to use a base,
You,
or how do the godly players in Third Strike do that? When they play someone they've never played before, are there things that they specifically look for in the first few seconds of the match? I mean, what do you look for?
mhm,
If you sit down, like say in a tournament setting, and you play a player that you've never played before,
mhm.
right? Like what's some of the things that you look for?
Okay. So it's a very nice thing that you just bringing on because I was exactly thinking of that. Having stayed 1 year in Japan
Mm-hmm.
and having traveled also in Japan, I knew lots of players. I knew lots
Mm-hmm.
of player style.
Mm-hmm.
I had this database inside of my head, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, that will maybe help. If we ever,
Mm-hmm.
come across one of these players, I'll be able to, teach people and just, download the data and share it. But of course, it didn't happen really because we played against people we didn't know. Well, actually, I knew one person of one team, but they sent a Yang and he striked us. So I never got to play against this guy that I knew that I would have, yeah, done okay against. But
Oh, and sorry to interrupt, but you're talking
yeah,
about this last co-op cup, right?
yeah, this last
Okay.
cup.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, um, it's right. It's very hard. It's very hard playing against people you do not know. And I will say it's nearly depend. It it kind of it kind of depends on the player I will say it's not very clear, but for example, I always have this image of Sakurada, the Alex player. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you fall against him, and that happened actually to the French team back in the days, maybe 2012, I don't remember, in during Togeki. So it was Marco, Gunfight, and Otana, I think. So probably the three among the three best players in France at the time, and they go up against Alex and stuff, and they're like, it should be okay. Sakurada strikes them, and and we were like, oh my god, guys! I mean, you got beat, like seriously beaten by an Alex. Like you have Chun Li, you have Urian, you have Dudley, and Alex. Seriously, guys. The if you have never played Sakurada, you cannot understand what's gonna happen to you. And except if you adapt very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly against a player like him, you will never win the first game. Never ever, because he plays in a way that is impossible to read and impossible to imagine. You cannot fathom the way he plays with this character because you have the way the character is played normally, how he moves, how he's supposed to do. So you have this preconception in your head, and then it's totally different. It's another character that he plays, but it's still the same. So you're like, oh my god, what do I do? You can't do anything. It goes too fast, especially Alex. I mean, two combos, you're in the corner, you're stunned, it's over, and you're dead. So against players like that, I would say it's nearly impossible. Even if you have, I mean, even if you have the matchup for you or whatever, I mean, it's going to be very hard. So, how to do it? And I just want to continue on this example with this year's Co-op Cup during team battle. I was with MOV. If people do not know, he's one of the three. I mean, he was the best player, third strike player at some point in the world. So he's not, you know, and he stopped playing. He's playing Street Fighter 5 now, but still, I mean, you're with MOV. You're like, oh, cool. I mean, I might go, somewhere with this year. We got striked by a random Ken. A random
Mm-hmm.
Ken. It's not even like top five Kens. We got struck by a random Ken from Kanagawa. He's not even from Tokyo. He's from far away Kanagawa. They
Mm-hmm.
have like, I don't know, 10, 15 players over there. Compared to the community in Tokyo, it's nothing. And even MOV got striked by this guy. So because you do not know the player, you do not know how he's gonna play, and his scan was kind of he had that part of randomness that makes
Mhm.
it very very difficult for you to adapt to. And random show use, I mean, is gonna be once, twice, and they're gonna pass because you do not expect someone at this point of the game, of the tournament, to just do that. And boom, oh shit, one. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for the second one, but then you play, he stops, but then boom, random show you again. So it's very hard to adapt against characters that have this part of randomness, like Shoryu's or invincible supers or invincible techniques with starters, that kind of thing. It's going to be very very hard to adapt. And you asked me how do good players do? I think I think they come with their background. I mean, when you play against a top player, like let's and my example is not even true because MOV lost, but usually when you play MOV, you're like, holy shit, I'm playing MOV. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to play seriously because he's gonna kick my ass. And
Mhm.
and because you fear him, because you know you have to play like 100%, you're gonna tend to play more by the book. And playing
Mhm.
by the book means playing matchup, means that you're able to play the matchup because then because there is no randomness. He's not gonna throw like shoryus like that. And you see it with like very powerful players or very well known players. It kind of feels like people, they're a little bit scared. Oh shit, I have Kokujin. You go up there and you're like, I've already lost, but fuck it. And then you just play your game. Maybe you'll win, but maybe you lose. But I think this aura that they have and helps them a lot to go over this randomness that helps some people pass and win.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, right? Maybe if you've played enough and you've played enough people,
Hmm.
like you said with a database, right? Then you
Hmm.
might be reminded, hey, that guy kind of plays like this player.
Yeah.
Let me see what,
Hmm.
but it, and what we're talking about, just to be clear, it's pretty rare that you come up against a player that doesn't play like anyone you've ever played before in your entire life. I mean, it's not that common, there's these players are going to remind you of somebody, so
Yeah.
there's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's something to work on, but yeah, I mean, so then why do the Japanese put on Co-op Cup then? I mean, that's just kind of a question that I just thought of now, because I feel like the Japanese they seem to put a lot more weight into, like, sets
Yeah. Hmm.
and longer plays and just playing the right way as opposed to just winning, playing the right way. So
Yeah.
so so why does why do they put on Co-op Cup then? An event that, one of the things that I took away from Co-op Cup is just how random it can
It
be.
is.
I
It's so
mean,
random.
I know some teams are seeded and everything, but it's really pretty random. I mean, we were like Team New York. We were so close.
Yeah.
We were
You
so
guys did it.
close,
Yeah.
and I think we had one of the more, no offense, obviously, right? No offense
No.
to any of the teams that we beat, but we weren't in no death brackets.
Yeah.
We definitely, we definitely played teams that I felt were sort of on par with our skill level.
Mhm.
Um, which makes, the last set all the more frustrating
Yeah.
because I feel like we really could have beat that team. But anyway, that's another. I,
Yeah.
I,
I mean, I
I was
understand.
salty for like a month,
Oh, tell me
okay,
about it.
after that.
Tell me
But
about it.
one of the things I took away from Co-op Cup is just how random it is. Like, I mean, obviously there are some teams in top 8 that are usually there,
Yeah.
right? But then there's always every year there's always like 3 or 4 teams where, like, where did these guys come from, right?
Yeah.
And so why did the Japanese continue to put on Co-op Cup, you think? I mean, they just like the experience of it? I mean,
I mean, there is this.
because it was pretty hype to me.
It is.
uh, it's okay.
Listen. No.
my my wife walks in the background all the time.
It's good. She's butt naked. I don't know if you could see that, but
Oh, never mind. Okay.
so I asked myself the same question. I was like, I mean, what is the point? what is the point in that? And I really don't understand this one game thing, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked people around, and they were like, the organizer, and I mean, props to him because he's doing everything that he can, and it's probably thanks to him that the game is still alive right now, and more than alive, like growing. But he comes from Togeki, and he likes this the cultural part of it. Like it's one game, and it's like trying to keep it alive through Co-op Cup
Mm-hmm.
in a different way, but still, keeping the basics that. And you've seen it. I mean, all tournaments in Japan are one game. It's
Mm-hmm.
one game, and that's it. They don't even have loser brackets.
Yeah.
It's very rare that they bring loser brackets. So it's cultural, I'd say, and uh, maybe they know. I guess, I mean, they have to know because now you have Street Fighter 4, you have Street Fighter 5 now. They've
Mm-hmm.
seen how it goes with like international competition, but of course you cannot go for best of 3 with like 5 people. That's
Mm-hmm.
way too long. That's going to be way too long. Um, so they like the format, this kind of family format.
Mm-hmm.
There is this thing also, like keeping like the Togeki spirit with the family spirit, like an event where everyone's gonna meet, and kind of big family reunion, and this kind of atmosphere. It would be hard to have like a single tournament, maybe, or maybe they would need like another full day. I don't know if that would be possible. So it's very cultural. They like the team. They're keeping this one game, and I mean, I don't like it. I'll be very fair. I do not like
Mm-hmm.
it because,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it's very random. This is very very random. But I mean, I still think that it's a very good thing that Co-op Cup is still there because we've seen it. I don't know if you guys seen the infographics that I did during Co-op Cup. I'm
Oh
sure you
yeah.
can find it um, somewhere on Twitter. But the numbers are rising. I mean, every year now the number of player is rising, and that is great. That is great.
Mm-hmm. Definitely,
Mm,
definitely. Yeah. I mean, my only, I guess my only guess is, kind of something we were talking about earlier. How fast can you adapt?
mm,
How fast can you read someone? How fast can you? Because I feel like that's, you know, I just feel like the gods, right? Like,
mm,
and I want to ask your opinion about this in a little bit, but like there's like a clear jump between like the strong Japanese players,
mm,
which I honestly think, the strongest American players are not that far off from the strong players in Japan. But I feel like there's a huge just jump from the god Third Strike players. You know what I mean?
mm.
Like the
Yeah.
ones that are just, and I always wonder, what sets them apart? Because it's not like there's no new tech, right? It's everyone has the knowledge.
Yeah.
What separates them? And one of the things I was talking to Yuki about this the other day.
Mhm.
You know, one word that I always was thinking about was efficiency,
Mhm.
right? I feel like the really, really the highest level Japanese players are just so deadly efficient.
Mhm.
Everything they do has a purpose.
Mhm.
It's like it's like you press a button. Sometimes like here's an interesting thought experiment. Like when you play Third Strike and you press a button, like do you know why you press that button? Like, do you know
Yeah.
why you did that? Do you know why you moved this way or moved that way? I feel like the Japanese, everything, there's no wasted motion with them.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm talking about like the god tier
Mhm.
Japanese players. Like everything they do has a purpose. I don't know about Rick and Maru. He's a little, I don't know. I feel like he's a little rough around the edges, but
Yeah.
he's so clutch
Still.
though. But anyway,
Yeah.
but I feel like
Still.
the god players, Nuki, MOV,
Mm.
and so,
Michigan.
all the
Michigan as
hosts,
well.
Deshikan and all those. There's a method to their madness, and
Mm.
they're just so efficient that way. But maybe it's also because they're able to read players very quickly.
Yeah.
They're kind of
Yeah,
they kind of
definitely.
go, okay, so, and it's so, think about it, it's so hard to do because you're playing a game where like these sprites are moving on the screen.
Yeah.
How, and I also think they multitask really well. Because
Maybe.
there's so many things that there's like what, I want to know the exact number, but there could be like at least like 15 things going on
Yeah.
like at any one moment in a third strike match.
Mhm.
And in terms of like, for example, like they, like, here's the super simple example, right? Can you keep an eye on your life and at the same time keep an eye on your super gauge, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
super basic example. Like even
Mhm.
even beginning third strike players, right? They can't even do that. You know what I mean? They
That's
can't
true.
they can't look at both things at once. So maybe they're good at that too. But
Mm.
I one of the things I noticed right off the bat is those god first strike players.
Mhm.
They're just so efficient, and it's not like they're doing anything fancy. They're just
No.
so super solid,
Mm.
just really efficient. They don't give you anything. They make you work. So maybe that's why they keep co-op cup around. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, yeah, and I think if like players are asking for it. I mean,
Mhm,
I arrived in March, so like
mhm,
Co-op Cup just ended. People were already talking about it, about the next season. The teams were already formed almost, like probably
mhm,
even in March and in June, July, they already had their teams. So they're really serious about it. They love it, and and it keeps the flame burning. And if it goes, if it, you know, like Matsuda-san, that is the owner of Game Newton,
mhm,
seeing that he's still gonna promote his event and do it because the community is there and wants this event. They train all year for this event. They come to Tokyo from all parts of Japan. That is so cool. Just like you guys had in the US. I don't know how many players exactly came from other states, but that is really cool. Have people coming from all parts of your country just
mhm,
for the weekend, just to play, and then boom, go back home. That's how dedicated the guys are, and I mean they're already. I mean it was over the night they were like talking about next year, like, oh, I'll see you next
mhm.
year.
Wow.
They know that they'll be there because it's the place to be for Third Strike. Um, just to get back at what you said about the God tiers, I was very lucky to travel in Japan, and I went in the southern part of Japan, Kyushu, the
Mhm,
southern island, and I stayed here and there, and I was in Fukuoka, which is the city where Deshiken is. So I was welcomed like he's a teddy bear. He's so sweet. He's not really like super sweet. He welcomed me. Like he even like came down to one of the game centers just to play with me because it wasn't really a night where people were playing, but he just came and played with me, and so I had the chance to play a whole night with him. And I have to say this. I mean, and and I've been playing for years now, but not that much. But still, I'm not a beginner. I felt like I was a beginner.
yeah.
I it, I mean, they call him in Japan, for those who do not know, they call him God, Kami-sama. They call him God, and I experienced why they call him God. Um, there is he reads your mind. He is able to read your mind. Like, I kid you not, he can do
Mhm,
that because he would parry things. I mean, at first, he would
mhm,
parry things that were obvious, and I was like, "Oh shit, I did it," and "Oh shit, I did it again."
mhm,
Like sometimes you just go and low MK, and then you just do HP. That's very obvious with Chun-Li, so of course he's gonna parry HP. But then I would be like, okay, I'm going to do something else. And when I do something else, he parries that something else. Like he was able to read my mind. Like even me, I wouldn't know what to press, and I would press that button, and he would know what I was gonna do, and
mhm,
whether parry or whiff punish, his placement was like perfect. He would always be at the perfect placement to whiff punish with a super. So many things. Like he could see everything. It's like fighting against Neo. He could read the Matrix and live and I mean it's incredible. I was gonna cry because at some point I was like, I cannot press any button. He's gonna kill me. Like he's gonna parry or just counter it. It's impossible. I felt like I was in front of a wall and I could not do shit. And that's the Deshiken experience. Anyone that's going to Japan, like you want to play against, like just go to Fukuoka and experience him because it's amazing. Like playing against someone that has that kind of vision, it it takes you to the next level because you have to step your game up in no time. It took me around 14 games to take one. So I mean, it's
Hmm.
not bad actually. When I went back to Tokyo, people were like, "Oh, you actually beat him." It's yeah. Some people even in Tokyo couldn't beat him, like can't beat him, because he's very very far.
Yeah.
In the game, I mean, he's probably like Kuroda, they have this vision of the game before you that they might be able
Hmm.
to see it, the future. I don't know, but yeah, it's amazing, and you're right. I think those top tier players have a very very good vision of the game. So many data about the game. They know what you're gonna do, and
Hmm.
that's why you need to step your game up. If you're if you're not at your top, and if you're not
Just locked in. Yeah.
yeah, if you're not locked in the how you're supposed to play, if you don't go, this step further, you're gonna lose
Uh-huh.
because they know.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah, that to me. That's one of the best things about Third Strike, right? Like, how far can you push the
Mm,
mind game, right? Like, you have, you know, like, we're gonna talk a little bit more about, ranking players because you had told me before the podcast that the French have a unique way of ranking players.
yeah.
But like, when you play someone, Yaz, as a top player, right? Like, okay, if they fall for my first option, they're
Mm,
probably not that great. How many options do I have
yeah.
do I have to go through to see exactly how good this guy is? It's funny that you told that story about Deshikin, because if Deshikin's God, then I swear Matsuken is the devil. Because I had a parallel experience while I was in Japan. I went to Game Versus, and the only person that was there was Deshikin, and then I think maybe someone a younger player.
Okay.
But it was funny because when I first played Deshiken, I'm not Deshiken, excuse me,
Once again.
Matsuken.
Yeah.
Um, because to me, I can't think of any more opposite Ken player than
Yeah.
they don't
They're
really play
uh,
very similar. It
definitely.
was funny because the first two times I played him, I beat him, and then he beat me 15 straight games. So it was like the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
But
Just
but
downloaded
playing,
you.
yeah, Matsuken is totally different. Like I feel like he just I felt kind of dumb too playing him,
Mm,
but like in a different way, like because he just was just doing like he was basically doing the same three things,
mm.
and just I knew what I had to do. It's just I just wasn't able to do it. But
Yeah.
man, that must be really frustrating not wanting to press a button. I mean, what do you do? So what happens when you try to throw him?
Yeah. You're like, ah. Yeah. It's you need to be able to update just like that. And it's so hard. I mean, it's really hard. But they push you. They push you to
Yeah,
that point where you just evolve, become your Pokemon evolution in just a few games. That's incredible.
yeah. So oh well. So I think that's a good time to take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk more about the future of the
Okay.
French third strike scene because you're back in Paris now for a
Yep.
little bit. You're
Mhm.
going to HFS 3, the Hadu tournament,
Yep.
and I want to get your thoughts on the current state of French third strike
Mhm.
and where you see the future is now that Arcade Street is gone, and you know
Yeah.
what you think's gonna happen to the what you think's gonna happen to the scene. So we're gonna go ahead and take our final break. But when we come back, we're gonna have more with Yaz. So stick around, guys. All right, guys, this is Mutant XP, and you are watching the Mutant Experience. Special guest tonight, Yaz from Paris, France. Very strong Third Strike Chun Li player. And so, speaking of French Third Strike players, Yaz, this
Yep.
is probably the segment that many of your compatriots are waiting for. So,
Yay.
let's talk a little bit about the French scene.
Yep.
Um, Again, like we alluded to earlier,
Mhm.
unfortunately, Arcade Street closed.
Yep.
So currently, there is no place to play Arcade Third Strike
So no,
in
there
Paris,
is no more. No,
and,
no
and
more
that's been
place where you can play.
and that's been for like the last 6 months, right? Basically, or
Yes,
7 months, or however since. I'm trying
something
to
like
remember
that.
exactly when Arcade Street closed. And I know you guys had like a little farewell tournament that was definitely
Yeah,
that I think you streamed that on Periscope or something.
they have something. Yes, for sorry for yeah, the closing, and yeah, it's been something like that more than 6 months now. That is over. Versus Dojo was the other game center, like smaller game center. It was an arcade for Third Strike. It was an Xbox emulator.
Mhm.
But it's closed as well. So now no more game centers. So what we do have now is that place that is a game cafe, manga cafe as well, where we gather once a month. They came up with the idea, actually, the community and some people in the community. Shout out to Izil, shout out to Nawar, shout out to Mimosa. That took this whole project and that made it happen very very quick. Shout out to them. So this place in their basement, they have some cabinets with older games and they have TVs with consoles over there. So what we do basically is now once a month we gather there. We bring our own Xbox, we bring our sticks, everything, and we play there the whole night. Uh, so it's not CPS3 anymore, obviously, but it's still good because the community gets to meet for one night every yeah once a month. So that's the only downside of it. It's not regular. So it's been the the scene has been kind of sleeping ish because you do not have any place like Arcade Street anymore where it was very easy to go and play versus Dojo as well. It was very easy. You could go play. It's central. So now what's left is online. So we have lots of people now playing on Xbox Online or Fightcade. We still have the same player. Like there's a small community of players playing on Fightcat, so they're still there and playing. And on the other side, when it's not online, offline, you have smaller sessions, but you have to be in the know. We cannot invite as much people as we would like to. Um, so it's kind of complicated. The thing is that, for example, we are two uh, who own a CPS3. Like three people own a CPS3 in the community. So we get to play on a CPS3 on arcade. We have the sticks, we have the whole setup. So we're trying with Mimosa actually we're trying to invite some players to our sessions. It kind of feels like those sessions that we just secretly play together and get better, but just on our own, and we forget about everyone else. It's not true. It's just that we cannot unfortunately invite everyone. But actually, the last session that we did at ELC is called Extra Life Cafe. I brought the CPS3, so we had one setup with one
Mhm.
CPS3. That was very cool. And we're going to do it again end of April. We're going to have the next session, and we'll bring everything. So that's a good thing because, as you know, we have this big tournament coming, and it's going to be exclusively on arcade. So people need to get used to playing again on arcade. OE is not Third Strike Arcade. Fight Cat is nothing like Third Strike Arcade. So that might that might be difficult for some players to adapt to arcade. So yeah, we're gonna bring the CPS3s uh, to to the next session.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. I'm glad that the community is still, you know, trying
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
because the closure of Arcade Street. I mean that, if that happened in America, forget it.
Yeah,
Let's all play something else now.
it was a serious blow. I mean, we have to.
Yeah.
There was a first blow. I don't want to make. I don't want to make it sound like wow, he's a big deal. But I mean, me and Victor, we left, and we were like the most present in Arcade Street the whole time. I mean, I would multiple times a week. I mean, every now and then, I would tell people, okay, I'm there if you want. Let's just go. So I was very, very often pushing players to come, even if it's one or two players. I don't care. I'll just go and play with you. It's fine. And Victor was always, motivated somehow to come and play. So you had two of the most um, present players that went away. We went to Japan, so that was kind of hard, to motivate the other players to play. So it went down to the Friday, and of course, like Arcade Street closing was a very hard blow to the community. But yeah, they they bounced back, and it's really cool that we still have this solution.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some individual French players. Yes.
Oh.
So uh I remember we had talked about this before the podcast. But let's say that you had to for like the next co-op cup. Let's say you had to assemble an all French team for co-op cup. Who
Okay.
would be on that team? And you can feel free to include yourself if you want to.
Okay.
You don't have to, but you know, I would presume that you'd want to team with your countrymen. So, but whatever. If there was a all French team, and I'm talking about you got to send the best of the best. Like who
Mhm.
would be on that team?
Okay. So there would be Marco,
Okay.
definitely. Marco. There would be Mimosa,
Mhm.
definitely. His his inside. He has a very, very, very high level. I mean, he
Mhm.
he himself, I think, does not realize it, but he has a top Japanese player level. And
Mhm. Even
and
though he's never has he ever been to Japan?
he's been once. He's been once, but a very
Uh
long
huh.
time ago. I think
Uh huh.
like first Togeki around
Uh
that
huh.
time. So yeah, and I'm fresh. I'm coming back. I'm fresh, and I know he's like super high. So yeah, Marco Mimosa. Um, then I would bring in Billy Kane if he was still playing or if he's still willing to play. That's
Mhm.
that's the thing. Like he's not like been playing lately. Um, he has a family and all, so I guess it's more complicated with everything. But I mean, if we're talking right now, I would say
Mhm.
Marco Mimosa. um, I would bring Nicola, his brother, with Dudley.
Mhm.
He's done very, very good things, and he's very, very strong. Um, so we have three players. Who would I bring?
So you're leaving Billy Kane off the team.
Yeah, right now I would leave him
Okay.
behind because he hasn't been playing
Uh huh.
lately. So
Alternate.
yeah,
So he's an alternate.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
um, I would take Nyaban
Uh-huh.
um, because his crazy random style is very, very good for co-op. Is
Uh-huh.
he is the best weapon for co-op cup, most
Mhm.
definitely. He's the best weapon. And for the last player, I would hesitate between Otana and me, between because Otana also has this random kind of game that is very aggressive, random style, and that's very, very good for co-op cup.
Mhm.
So that could be very good. Um, there is already one very good Chun-Li with Marco, so I mean I wouldn't be it would be okay to not have me on that team. I would say so. Yeah, it would be between him and I would say. Um, so Marco Mimosa. So Marco Chunli, Mimosa Ken or Yang. He's been playing lots of characters, but Ken or Yang definitely
Mhm.
two most powerful characters. Marco Chan, Mimo Ken, Nicola Dudley. Nyeban, Makoto, Otana, Yurien, or Michan. Yeah,
Hmm.
that would be right now the best French team, if I'm not forgetting anyone. Sorry, guys, if I am.
So, one of the things that I also wanted to ask you about the French is they've made a they've made quite a presence,
Hmm.
an impression on the UK scene.
Yeah,
And I'm obviously talking about the London Third Strike Gutter Trash Kids.
got the
Um,
trash.
yeah. Have you been? You've never been to a Gutter Trash, right?
No, I haven't. I'm so sorry,
Hmm.
guys. I always wished I could, and
I'm putting you on the spot
always
there. See.
there was always something, happening, and I couldn't.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Hmm. And so, obviously, Neobon
Mm,
won that last gutter trash, and now that there's no arcade third strike, in Paris,
yeah.
I can only understand, why, um, the French would be so excited to go to gutter trash.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, obviously, you've never been to gutter trash, but I assume that you are at least on speaking terms with a lot of
Oh yeah.
the newer generation,
Mm,
um, London players
mm,
and British players. Um, can you tell us a little bit about how that relationship sort of evolved throughout the years? I mean, because I know that the UK scene they've gone through different generations. Like the
mm,
last podcast we were talking, I had Haas
mm,
from Texas, and he was talking about different generations and stuff.
mm.
But how exactly did the French, sort of strike up this relationship with the new Third Strike players? Just curious if you knew.
Uh,
Was it just them? Was it just Virtual Fu and and Dom just putting on gutter trash, and then the French just came, or has
I
there always been a kind of dialogue between the French and and the English in terms
yeah.
of Third Strike?
Yeah, definitely.
You know.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit with the older generation, like
Mhm.
Mimosa. He had like contacts with like older players, and I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I'm not really good with names, but
Mhm.
people that are not even playing anymore right now, um, in the UK, and they welcomed him. They had tournaments back in the days, and so yeah, he went there, and he had a very good relationship with people over there. And back in the days, there was this kind of, you know, tension, I would say, but it wasn't really a tension. It was between positive and negative, but it was still a positive thing, like UK had very, very strong players, and France had very strong players as well. So they were kind of trying to figure out who was the best in
Mhm.
Europe, and they had this kind of sane battle back in the days. And now with the younger generation, I think maybe, I mean, as far as I can remember, I think Gutter Trash really helped, crossing the channel for us French people, even if I never did. But I think like lots of French people went there every time, and this started the relationships, and yeah, that built, I guess, that way, and friendship even yeah got built. Um, like people staying at some other people's house, or just staying in the arcades because they were just like drug addicts and just playing the whole night. Um,
Uh-huh.
you have pictures of, I don't know, Victor with a blanket over his head and playing. Like it's probably 3 or 4 a.m. and he's still playing. Like, yeah, the drug addict that he is, but we're also. Um, yeah, I think that was a very good thing. And after that, you get friends. You become friends on Facebook. You join the groups, and through also the groups, these groups were kind of very, yeah, a very good thing, because it's a good way to keep contact with people, to get involved in the discussion, because it's not always the same discussions, and we might have different opinions. So yeah, I think it got that's how it got um, now, and it's great because we went to the UK, but also the UK players came to France. For example, like King of First, right? We had lots of
Mhm.
UK players coming. Uh, First edition, we had lots of UK players, more than the second one, but still we had lots of people coming. Uh, Sunfest, we always had like some players coming, so that was cool. But the last two big events, King of First Strike, we had lots of English players. That was really cool. I mean, we always welcome foreign players very well. I think we make them feel like they're at home. That's very important to us. Welcoming new people, and it's something that we really like to do, you know. And we were talking about that with Mimosa, about doing some kind of, and I mean he might be okay with me saying that because it's something that he wants to do, but doing some kind of we have this program in university called Erasmus. I don't know if you heard of it. It allows students in college to study abroad, yeah, in multiple countries over Europe. And he had this idea of doing something similar with players. Like
Mm-hmm.
uh, we would cover all the fees, like tickets, and we would, you know, welcome the player and everything, and he would play with us, and not even taking always, you know, top players, but taking like mid players, like a silver armor player, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can, you know, get to that point also. Um, so take a silver armor, not even a gold one, and yeah, and make him come here and, you know, play with us. Go back and maybe do something else. Do the opposite the next time. You know, the UK players, they gather the money and they invite one of us going there, and, you know, so kind of exchange program like that. That's something he's been thinking about, and I think it's a great idea because it helps building the community, building bonds with each other, and that could be really cool. And that's actually what we're doing somehow with Exodus,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also what he did with Nyaban. I mean, that was really great from him to invite him over to the US. That was great from you guys. You know how you welcomed him, and I think it's only fair that we're inviting Exodus back.
Yeah, yeah, and speaking of Exodus, I guess now's the time to talk a little bit about HFS 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yep.
for those of you who have been living under a rock for the last few months, as you know, the next big Third Strike event in Europe will be HFS Summer 3. Um, I always troll the name of the event because it's HFS Summer, but it's happening in May.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe you French have a different definition of summer.
We don't. We don't. It won't
but
be summer.
but correct me if I'm wrong, Yaz. But obviously you're going to be in attendance, and there's going to be two different Third Strike tournaments: a
Yep.
2v2 team tournament, two v
Yep.
two,
Yep. To be two.
Wasada style, Pokemon style. What
Uh,
style is it going to be?
I think it's gonna
Do
be
you know?
classic. Classic.
Okay,
Yeah. A versus
okay,
A, and A
yeah,
stays.
Wasada, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then obviously the singles tournament. And what makes this tournament obviously so special is that there are going to be Third Strike players from all around the world. As you had already mentioned, there's going to be some American players,
Yep.
notably Exodus from Maryland, the brainchild behind TFC. Also, Lance from Alaska, I
Lance.
think, is making plans to
I
go.
I think, yeah.
Um, and obviously there's going to be a lot of English players
Mm. Yep.
coming, including Hallery and 3J,
Okay.
and just to name a few. And then obviously, the entire French scene
Mm.
will definitely be there. And
Yep.
so let me ask you some Hadu, and then obviously the main attraction. I don't know why I forgot, but the main attraction, of course, is Rikamaru from
Yay.
Japan. Now, is he the only Japanese player that's coming?
Yep. Well, I'll be there, so there's gonna be
Yeah.
two
Okay.
Japanese.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Right.
So no. I guess if you can.
Yeah. Nah.
It's post border, right? You can say you're from wherever you want now. I guess. Um,
Show my
but
visa.
but let's talk a little bit about HFS. Um, are there any players that you're well, actually, let me get to a question that 3J posed earlier in the chat. Hopefully,
Okay.
3J is still here. And he asked, "Is Rikumaru really that good?" I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure he asked that a question like that. That's kind of the question
Oh
he asked. Let me look.
my god.
He said, "Yaz, um, yeah, yo, Yaz, is Rikumaru really that good?" quote unquote. That's what he asked. That's the exact question he asked.
Is he that good? Is he that good? He is very good. He is
Uh-huh.
very, very good. I mean, let's just remind people that he was like King Ghidorah. He was like the three dragons, like one of the three
Uh-huh.
dragons, him, MOV, and Nuki. So he was one of the top three best players in Japan.
Uh-huh.
He still is one of the top players. I mean, he did finals for both days in co-op, right? Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah, he did
Yeah.
finals in teams, and he did finals in the main event. So that's how good it is. Like he is. He doesn't play that much anymore.
Uh-huh.
So I can't. I mean, he's not at this level, at the level that he was before. Obviously, he's not.
Uh-huh.
And lots of, I mean, he's lost a little bit. However, I would advise watching the recent Boss Rikimaru versus RX Tominaga. That was a couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
That's like an exhibition tournament, like sort of. And
Uh-huh.
you'll see how he deals, like especially U3J. Maybe you've seen it, how he deals with Tominaga, especially when the pressure is very high.
Uh-huh.
He deals with pressure very, very well.
Uh-huh.
So that's one thing, and he applies pressure very well as well. You have to experience that. I understand the question because when you watch videos, it's not easy to understand. When you watch Nuki versus Rikimaru, at co-op, you might not understand what's going on, but like
Uh-huh.
the pressure, that's something you have to live. But yes, he's very good, and he's definitely gonna be the one that everyone's gonna fear. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Well, we all know how misleading video footage of Third Strike can be, right?
yeah,
Give me a good half an hour with Pro Tools, and I can make anyone look godlike.
yeah,
um,
definitely.
awesome, awesome. So, another question relating to HFS: who are you looking forward to playing the most
Mm,
at the event?
I would say it's always been like that, but I would say Nyaban first.
Hmm. Do
I'm
you have
like
a little thing going with him, or like a rivalry type thing, or?
we've always kind of had this,
Uh-huh.
and I've almost always beat him during tournaments or
Uh-oh.
first two. So
Uh-oh.
I'm like his nemesis, and it's funny because we have this thing going, and it would be very funny
Mhm.
to come across him. Definitely, I would love to play against foreign players, definitely
Mhm.
UK players. Exodus, I've heard lots of things about him, and I really look forward playing against him. Like everyone's been saying, he's very very strong, so
Mhm.
I would really like playing against him. I hope Percy is going to be there. Percy is one of the UK players. He plays Chun Li, and he's very good
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
Um, Krij, I would like to play against you during the tournament. Um, Criminal, I don't know if he's going to be there. He's an Ibuki player.
Mhm.
Uh, I've heard a lot about him too, and I've seen the videos, and I would like to experience it, live and see how it goes.
Mhm.
So, and it's Ibuki. I have a very hard time with this character, so I wanna.
I
It's
think everyone has a hard time with Ibuki,
yeah,
and I think the explanation is simple because nobody plays her. Really,
yep.
think about it. Nobody
I
plays
know,
her.
I know,
Um,
I
it's
know.
it's it's frustrating.
Well, yeah.
Oh, Crime is coming. So Cactu has confirmed. Well,
Okay,
because we were just kind of going off the banners, right?
cool.
We don't really know who's going unless you have a banner made for you.
Yeah,
So hopefully, Criminal and Piercy have banners
cool.
made for them soon. Um, so speaking of the UK players, I know you had talked about maybe doing a Third Strike Erasmus type exchange program.
Yeah.
Um, if you had to pick one UK player
Mhm.
that you would choose to kind of be that first kind of exchange student to bring over to France, who would that be?
Mm, I mean, there's so many players, and I don't know
Well, you got
everyone.
to pick one because you're
So,
not millionaires.
uh, yeah, I would say the first I would bring 3J. He's being like very involved in the community.
Mhm.
He's been motivating everyone. He was the one to motivate everyone to come by bus or whatever. He wanted to rent like some minivan and just pick everyone and come the whole way driving to Vierzon. So I think like and he's been posting on Third Strike Europe that he's got to this point. Like sometimes you get to this point and you feel like you cannot evolve anymore and you're
Mhm.
stuck there. And I think that coming here, playing with us, might help him, going further and you know unlocking unlocking this this step that might be missing right now. So I think
Mhm.
that would help him a lot. But I'm sure like lots of people could benefit from coming here because we're lucky we have lots of very good players and you learn a lot by playing with them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. That's not. Yeah. 3J would be a really good choice. Yeah.
Mm,
Definitely. Yeah. I think Hallery too. I think
yeah.
Hallery's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I mean, I always see those two kind of as the sort of the leaders of this new generation. I
Billy
mean,
as well.
to me by far, because I didn't get to play all of the UK players, but to me they're probably the two best in terms of the new generation. Um, but yeah, I think that sounds like a really cool idea, man. Sometimes I wish I just won the lottery tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would buy every my pipe dream. People who know me, I've told this story a million times. But if I ever won the lottery, I would start a Third Strike cruise.
No.
I
Sounds
would get a
good.
giant ocean liner,
I
and I would and there would just be Third Strike versus City Cabs in there.
yes.
I mean, have you ever played Third Strike on a boat? I mean,
Nope.
and then you can't go nowhere. You're on a
You
boat.
have to play. You
You
have
have to
to play.
play. You have to play. You have to
You ain't
talk to
going
other Third Strike
anywhere.
players, right?
That would be dope.
Yeah.
That would be
Uh,
dope.
so another HFS question.
Yes.
So the tournament organizer said that he would he would award a arcade cabinet to anyone who gets an
Yeah.
S grade on Rikimaru.
Yeah.
Is it S or S plus plus or MSF? I don't know what it is.
No, it's an
I
S.
think it's an S. An
Yeah,
S.
it's
Are
yeah.
you gonna be gunning for that or?
I mean, Chun-Li is one of the easiest character to score,
uh-huh.
so yeah, maybe it's gonna be hard for me to get the
Uh-huh.
cabinet, but people playing Makoto or some other fancy character that can easily get a score, I don't know, if they get to that
Mhm.
point, finals
Mhm.
and make it, who knows? But there are some other
Mini awards,
require
right?
yeah,
Oh
there
yeah.
are other awards and requirements I think I saw um, last, but I can't remember really what it is. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting those little awards.
Mhm. And then my last question about HFS,
Hmm.
Yaz, and I'm sure you knew this question was coming. Who's coming out on top in singles? Who's winning?
Who's
Who's
winning?
winning?
Who's
Come on,
winning?
who's gonna win? Who's gonna win HFS?
Who's gonna win?
Remember, you're going, so
I am.
so
I
answer
am.
carefully.
I'm looking forward to getting very far. I won't lie. I'm not going there to just upload and support. I'm
uh-huh.
going there, yeah.
You're going there to smash.
Yeah, I'm going there, to test myself
Yeah.
and see how things will be.
Uh-huh.
So yes, I'm hoping, but I'll I don't know. It would be between Rikimaru. I cannot really judge UK players. Unfortunately, I don't know the whole list and who would make it. But I don't know if they could make it to the finals. I'm sorry, guys, but we're gonna be very tough to eliminate. So that's gonna be a tough one for you guys. I hope that it's gonna happen, but I don't know. Um, Rikimaru, of course, gonna be there. I don't see him not making it, even if he's gonna have the pressure of being abroad, of having the whole community against him. I don't know if you've seen the footage of Stunfest, how it goes,
Mm-hmm.
but you basically have the whole room against you when you're not French.
Yeah.
So everyone's shouting like every time a French, lands a hit. So it can be very very hard to play if you're not used to that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
Rikimaru. He has like balls of steel. Like I don't think anything can distract him. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give a shit. So he's gonna come ready. We have to count on him. Mimosa, if he's on a good day, he might make it there. It, I mean, I'm telling you guys, he's gonna be a serious player to watch. Yeah, because I've been playing with him like for the past 2 3 weeks now, playing together. We're gonna be together during the teams. If he comes, he's gonna come. Hopefully, so yeah, he's gonna be a tough opponent. Him, unfortunately, Otana is not here. He's very good during tournaments, so there's gonna
Yeah,
be
I noticed that about Otana. He's very good in tournament.
yeah,
You know, nerves of steel, or
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
substance Urian is made out of.
yeah. Definitely. You can hear
You
like
know.
kang kang kang. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Otana. Yeah, unfortunately he's not gonna be there. Billy Kane is not coming either. So
Mhm.
that's two very very strong players not coming. So that's
Mhm.
maybe a highway for some other
Mhm.
players. I'm gonna be all out. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
be kidding. So I want to make the best of this. But Nicola, of course, if he's on a good day, we're gonna train together as well. And I think um, if he's on a good day, he's gonna be a very tough opponent. But
Yeah.
these are the top players. But I'm not underestimating anyone. Players like Blacoon, with his Yang could be,
Mhm.
surprising. You never know. Yang is hard. You have to know the matchup. You have to know the player. So he could surprise people. I'm not underestimating anyone. Who else in the French scene? Him. I could see. Oh yeah, we have another Makoto player, Coxis.
Mhm.
Another Makoto player. He's good, very good.
Mr. Jab Jab Super.
Yeah,
Like.
Mr. Jab Jab Super, Mr. Leap Super, Mr. Whatever Super. Like he's
Whatever
very good.
Super.
Yeah, he's very good at
Yeah.
confirming. He's super. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't talk about Niban. Of course. Like yeah, we're gonna have to watch for the Makotos.
Mhm.
I've heard a lot about Exodus, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not. I'm staying focused. Lens.
I'm just hoping EXO doesn't embarrass us. That's all.
Oh, I mean, from what I've heard, I mean,
he has to do he has to do as well, if not better than Neobon did at TFC. Because
okay.
if he goes 2 and out, where he's not allowed back in the country.
Okay, we'll take his passport.
All
We'll
right, yeah,
just
take his passport. If he goes 2 and out, take his passport. I'm sure 3J will house him. Maybe the UK players will house him for a couple months. And then after that,
keep
he's on
him.
his own. Yeah.
Lens was very. I was very impressed
Mhm.
by Lens in Japan.
Uh huh.
So I know I've seen him play. So
Mhm.
yeah, so there might be, I mean, there might be surprises. That I'm
Mhm.
really looking forward to the singles. Singles will be very interesting. Yes,
Mhm. Yeah.
it's gonna be
And
very
is
interesting.
Victor going?
Oh yes, he's coming.
Okay,
Um,
so he's my pick then.
he could
For
definitely,
grand
he could
finals.
definitely. He has those times where he's like super Victor, and yeah, he's
Mhm.
just unstoppable.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to see a Chun versus Necro grand
I
finals.
well, I would love to see it if it's me. Yeah,
If it's you, yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah,
It, it, it,
yeah. So, future of French Star Strike players coming to America. Obviously you had talked about how Neobon came to TFC,
yeah.
and he was obviously a pleasure to have over here. Any chance? you're gonna come to a future Third Strike event, Yaz, or maybe some other French players.
I would love to. I would really love
Yeah.
to, but I'm going back to Japan
Uh-huh.
in a month. Yeah, in mid-May, I'm going back to Japan, so it might be difficult for me right now, but in the
Mhm.
future, I would be pleased to visit the US
Mhm.
again. And as for other French players, I'm sure that lots of people would be very interested in coming, yeah, and going to see you guys. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of just choosing who, if you, I mean, if they have the money, they don't, or, if you
Mhm.
can't sponsor a ticket or, sponsor halfway or something. I mean, the good thing about this community is that it's a community. So if we're talking about just like we did with like making Exodus come. I mean, if we're talking about okay, there is this tournament. This time they can't afford it, but we need to send someone who's gonna pitch in. They'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I want to see this community living. I want this community growing. I'm going to do everything that I can to make this community grow. For example, I'm going to leave my CPS3. I brought it back from Japan. I'm going to leave it here so they can play on arcade.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
and I yeah, I want to
You
make
might want
it.
to rethink that, Yaz. I was on eBay the other day. I don't know if you saw that
I
post on
saw it.
Facebook,
I saw it.
but I was like, these
Oh,
are blood diamonds now we're dealing with, Yaz. These are
I
blood
mean,
diamonds.
I know, like more than $600 for it. Like,
No, $700. Not even
yeah,
for a Third Strike board, for a new gen board.
it's new gen. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
No, that's too much. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, doing everything that's possible to make it grow, and yeah, if we can make people come or go, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, before we leave, Yaz,
Yeah,
um, I know we've first of all, I want to thank you for being on the show. I know it's super late over in Paris,
I see.
um,
So,
but definitely, thanks for coming on the show. But before we leave, for those of you in the chat who have been waiting, obviously it's the end of the show, and
mhm.
everyone knows what that means. It's time for everyone's favorite Third Strike segment, and that is Pack It Up. So, Yaz, we were talking about how you get very angry, you get very triggered
Oh my
with
God.
execution errors. Do you get triggered when you watch other people mess up?
Not really. I'm like,
Not as much.
oh, oh, that's too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's going to be a lot of oh, that's too bad in this next segment. For those of you who don't know, for Pack It Up, what I do is I scour YouTube and the internet for some of the more unique examples of third strike play. And so
yeah.
we have quite actually a star-studded edition of Pack It Up just for you, Yaz.
Okay, but
Um,
share your screen so I can see it.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, I'm gonna have to share the screen now. So just give
Oh
me a
my
second.
God.
So it's I I like I said in previous podcasts, um, I definitely think that the segment might be helping because it's getting harder and harder for me to find bad third strike play online. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this week's edition of Pack It Up. All right, there's Ryu at it again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Nominee number one. And so this Urian player might want to think twice before trying to do a unblockable with a move that has like 1,000 frame startup.
Oh shit. Oh
It's
no.
like he had to have think what's the slowest move I can use.
The slowest move of the game.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
my God.
So
Oh, nice.
nominee number two, this
Nice.
Alex player seems to think that SF5 combos work in Third Strike, but Canadian Oro player Jinrai shows him otherwise here.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It almost
Uh,
looks like it works, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Nope.
yeah. Nominee number three, Holdat, New York player, tries
Oh.
his hand at Yun. But unfortunately, he has to learn that when you activate Gen Asian, you're supposed to inflict half damage, not take half damage.
Oh shit.
Nominee number four,
Uh,
I
Bam,
have no words
bam,
for this.
bam, bam, bam.
He tried to throw a fireball,
Oh.
and he got promptly smacked in the face for it.
Oh my God,
And
this is
then
hilarious.
nominee number 5, Yaz, Maximilian makes his debut on Pack It Up as he shows us some of the worst Denjin play ever. That's for you, Denges. Look at that. He missed it once, and then he tries it again. But with all due respect, Max ended up winning the round. So,
Okay,
shout outs to Max for dreaming of
okay.
Third Strike. All right,
That's,
guys. So
that's,
that was this week's edition of Pack It Up. Uh, Tell
oh,
me which one was your favorite on Twitter. Tweet me and let me know what was your favorite, Yaz. Which was
I have to say, like number five was pretty good.
yeah, number 5 was pretty good, right?
That was pretty
The
good.
failed Denches, the
Yeah,
failed Dension times 2.
but
All right.
I
Yeah,
can't really just to wrap it up. I can't really, speak because I might, if I can find them, I'll send them to you because I have those of my own, like losing games when I
uh-huh,
was not supposed to lose them.
uh-huh,
And I mean, my game, I have this one against Boss Makoto. I'll send it to
uh-huh.
you.
Okay, okay. I do remember though. I was in preparation for this podcast because I'm a reputable journalist, right? I do my homework. But I remember watching the King of Third Strike finals, and I remember this one point in your match versus Nikolai, because that's who
Yeah.
you played, right, in grand finals.
Yeah.
And he did machine gun blow, and you blocked it,
Yeah.
and as a punish, you did neutral jump. I don't know if you remember that,
I
but
do. I do
I have no idea what
remember.
you were going for.
It was super. It was fucking super. It was
just
super.
just
And I have this.
raw super, or standing roundhouse super. Because if you were trying to do standing roundhouse super, because you have to cancel super jump, I understand, but
No, no, it was
I don't
like
know.
just plain super. And my
Yeah,
character didn't do anything. I just like neutral jump
yeah.
MK, I think, or even light kick. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
And Nikolai was so surprised he didn't even do anything
Yeah, he
when you
did
did. It was funny.
or something. Yeah, but it was crazy. Crazy
So
tension.
so is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up the show, Yaz? Any messages, any shout outs in French? Because I know there might be some people who are watching this in Paris.
Well, I mean, shout out
Anything?
to everyone, like, and anyone who watched this until the end, especially. But really, thanks to you for having me tonight. It was really nice. That was really a nice invitation, and I look forward to receiving everyone here in France during HFS in May, first weekend of May. And if you can't make it, please watch the stream. I'll probably comment or whatever, but we'll be there and,
Hmm.
we'll
Hmm.
we'll still, give you the information. Yeah.
And also, for those of you who aren't familiar with HFS, as Yaz says, May 5th through 7th. And it's not just Third Strike there, okay? I don't want
Yeah.
everyone to misunderstand. It's just like a Third Strike event. I mean, if you love old games, if you love retro gaming, if you love all those type of, that sort of old arcade, I think what you called it earlier, Yaz,
Hmm.
the culture of the coin,
Yeah.
then
Hmm.
definitely come to HFS. I think it has a little bit of, for everyone. For those
Yeah.
of you who play Windjammers,
Hmm.
there's going to be some Windjammer action there too.
Yeah.
The only unfortunate thing about Hadu is it's the same weekend as Texas Showdown.
Yeah.
But it's different time zones, so I'm pretty sure our streams aren't going to overlap
Mm.
too much. So with that said, guys, tonight you've been watching the Mutant XPerience podcast. Once again, I've done like 9 of these now.
Hmm.
So if anyone in the chat or anyone watching the YouTube replay has a suggestion for a guest on a future Mutant podcast, definitely shoot me an email or tweet me and let me know. Um, Shout outs to the Boiler Room, the SoCal Third Strike players who hold it down. Obviously, Violent City, the new venue
Mm.
where the Gutter Trash Kids play.
Yeah.
Michigan Masters, which happened last weekend, but you can obviously catch
Mm.
the replays on I think KO Arcade, the Poverty Game Night guys. Hype Spotting,
Mm.
Hype Spotting, which is a FGC Major 15th through 16th April 2017, which is I think next week, right, or two
Yeah.
weekends from now.
Mm.
And
Two.
once again,
Yeah.
Texas Showdown, again same weekend as HFS.
Mm.
That's starting to shape up. and of course the Hadou tournament, obviously headlined by Rikamaru,
Mm.
Exodus, Lance, the French players, including Yaz and Neobon, all of the a lot of the UK players, and then Combo Breaker, May 26th to 28th in Chicago. Um, they're I think a Facebook event page was just made for the Third Strike Side tournament. So once again, guys, thanks for joining me on the Mutant XPerience. Thanks again, Yaz, for coming on, especially considering how late it is. You're welcome anytime back. And I guess
Thanks a lot. Thanks a
I
lot
guess
for
that's
having me
pretty
again.
much it. So again, tweet us, follow Yaz on Twitter. You see it on the bottom right hand side. Follow me on Twitter. Play Third Strike. It's a good game, and I'll see you guys next week.
Nice game.
Later.